Hello, this is Todd Shank from Premier FPL. I'm going to be doing my Game Week 12 preview for Premier League Fantasy. Um, so, a few things that I'll be looking at this week are whether you have wildcarded or not, what you should look uh, for either one, whether you've have your wild card ready to go for this week, you're saving it, or if you've already used it. Um, then I'll be taking a look at some of the budget defenders in the official game and selecting forwards. I'm also planning to look at some of the Togga draft fantasy. That's one of the sites that I do write for occasionally and do some of their draft fantasy games, and they have a perfect 11 game, so I'll do a little bit with that too. Um, After this, look ahead at both Game Week 12 preview as well as looking ahead at some of the fixtures coming up and getting ready for December matches. And then finishing up, I'll do a quick injury report and then my possible team setup for Game Week 12. All right, as you can see here, I do have PremierFPL.com. That's my blog. I have this pulled up. You can always go there for my fixtures planner. But as I said, we're going to start out with whether or not you have wild carded and who are some of the players that you should maybe look at. If you do have your wild card available, this might be a good time to go ahead and do your wild card since it's the last international break before spring. It's a good chance to kind of reset your team, especially with some of the players out injured or just not performing well. Maybe it is you just want to do a reset. This is probably a good time either now or maybe just before the December fixtures if you do still have it. If you don't have it, there's still some changes that you can make whether you want to do a -4 or not. So as you can see here, I do have some of these the budget defenders pulled up here. Few of them to look at. I already have Ward and Lowton in. I actually just this week, so here we have Togga. Gonna go over to their blog here. Earlier this week, I did an article for them breaking down Burnley's fantasy assets. I see them as solid fantasy assets for this season, no matter what kind of fantasy game you're doing, whether it's the official Fantasy Premier League or daily draft fantasy, any one of them, they are solid choices. And in my article, I'd recommend going over there. You can check it out. In the article, I do talk about how they have set up this season and where you should look for some points from them. But anyway, going back here, Ward and Lowton. I brought in Ward pretty early, 4.7. So I do have a little bit in the bank with him. Lowton I brought in just last week, and he already picked up. If you watched my preview or my review for Game Week 11, he already picked up 6 points for me there. And they do have some fairly decent fixtures coming up here. Swansea at home this weekend, and then even Arsenal away I see as a quality one for them where these could still pick up points. So I would definitely recommend picking up both of them. If you don't have the extra room to bring in Ward, Ben Mee is another one that would be a good pickup there too, because he's really been racking up the points lately. Actually picked up 8 points last week. So yeah, might actually want to bring in Mee over Lowton. But yeah, either one is a good pick. I would possibly recommend. We'll take a look here. Newcastle, they have some interesting fixtures coming up. If you want to take a shot at Lascelles, you could. The only problem is that he does have an injury, may or may not play, but he is their team captain, so if he is fit, he's probably going to play. All right, so looking over some of these other players in here, I have a hard time really recommending any Swansea players, but Naughton would be one that you could bring in if you really wanted to take a shot with him. Normally I would recommend Schindler here, but he looks like he is out for this weekend, being suspended. He started out this season really well, but has kind of dropped off since then. And Huddersfield do have some not so great fixtures coming up, so he's one I think that you probably do want to avoid at this point. I do have Kiko Femenia in here. Started out the season really well. Last few weeks has not performed all that great. But Watford do have some positive fixtures coming up here. West Ham at home is a good chance that he could bring in some points, maybe even get the clean sheet in that one. Newcastle away is also a fairly decent one. Then they do have the string of not so great matches, but even Burnley away could be one where you see them picking up some points. As far as some of these lower tier defenders, if you want to go up a little bit higher, you could, but some of them that I'm actually recommending are Joe Gomez and Alberto Moreno. The reason being that Liverpool this season, sorry, let me pull up the league table here. And if you look at Liverpool this season, here at home, allowing 1 goal at home this season. Very good set of fixtures that are coming up here. Not so much here in the kind of the end of early December, end of November, but Southampton home, Chelsea at home. Both of those are ones that I would look at. You have 2 defenders who 4.5, 4.6 do have a chance to get forward and get you offensive goals, as well as the clean sheet bonuses for Liverpool. So the 4 that I would really recommend looking at, I guess 5 that I would look at bringing in are Ward, Lowton, me, Moreno, and Gomez. Looking a little farther out from that, you could look at some of the Watford defenders, Kiko Femenia, and I guess he would be kind of the main one to look at there if you're looking in this lower tier bracket. If you go up a little bit higher, Holobus at 5.0, he doesn't have as many points as Femenia, but in recent weeks has done a little bit better than Femenia. So so that's kind of my breakdown of some of the budget defenders. In the midfield, so if you're looking at a wild card, I would say one of the players you probably want to look at, depending on whether he is going to be fit or not, is going to be Eden Hazard. His underlying statistics have looked much better in recent weeks. I don't have those pulled up at the moment, but I remember looking through them a little bit ago and seeing that his shots are going up, dribbles, a lot of his offensive statistics, the underlying statistics, are really looking better for him. The problem's going to be whether or not he will be fit and ready to go for this weekend. Sterling is another one who looks like he may not be fit. Not really sure that I have the room to move him out, since I will have to do something with Jones. May just hold on to Jones and do something with Sterling. But I would actually recommend Sane over Sterling at this point. If you have the room to bring in Aguero, that might be something to look at. The only issue with this weekend is Aguero having the long trip back from international duty, whereas Jesus doesn't have as much of a trip since they ended up just playing England recently. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Jesus right now. In the midfield, I would recommend Salah over De Bruyne. If you want to go with 3 men for City, Sané, you could go with De Bruyne. The problem is his price tag is so high, and I mean, it's only 3-point difference between Silva and De Bruyne, as you can see here, and Silva's price tag is much lower. Both of them are more of assist. They're in there more to get you the assists, so you're really relying on assists with them in the official game. So Salah is one you maybe want to look at bringing in, as well as Mane. Mane is another one. So, moving along here, um, looking ahead, some of the upcoming fixtures. My fixture planner here at Premier FPL, I do have it broken down. Second half is here. Game weeks 12 through 20 I have pulled up. So, looking ahead, you definitely want to have some kind of plan in place for the Christmas period, mostly because a lot of the casual players tend to drop out around this time. So if you're really looking to push, this is your time to look ahead, plan ahead for your transfers, uh, make sure that you have enough available to be able to make the moves that you want to and not have to take too many -4s. It is also a good time that you could take a hit here and there just because you can often make up the points depending on how things go. Now, the issue is going to be this fixture congestion right here, game week, basically game week 19 through about 22. You have those 4 matches in there. Very short period of time. I think I heard somewhere just under 300 hours that teams are going to be playing 4 matches. That's a lot of game time, a lot of playing time for these teams, and a lot of these managers are going to be rotating players. Especially looking at Man City here, Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away, Crystal Palace away, Watford at home in that time. I can definitely see him doing some rotation there. The 2 players that he has not rotated much has been De Bruyne and Silva, so I don't know. This seems like the time where he might be resting them more than likely, if he's going to rest them at all this season. But yeah, trying to plan around that is going to be very difficult. I would say the one thing that you definitely want to make sure is that you have players on your bench that are playing. So for me, having somebody like like Simon Francis here on my bench available, even Tom Carroll, who has been playing, his 4.5 price tag is the main reason I have him there. But these are all guys that are playing. I would say that the teams that are most likely to rotate are some of these upper end teams. Man City, Manchester United, I can see both of them rotating players. Chelsea, in the past, Conte hasn't rotated players very much, so that might be one area where you can really start to bring in Chelsea players for this time. Same thing with Liverpool players. They do have fairly decent set of fixtures here, even in the near. Leicester at home, Burnley away. So Liverpool, Chelsea, even looking at Tottenham players. The other one that I would say that you probably want to look at bringing in here is Crystal Palace. They have a good string of matches coming up here. A good place to look at bringing in some extra points because a lot of their guys are lower tier players. Pull up Crystal Palace here. You do have Zaha, who is back at 6.8. That's a really good price tag. It's a little bit higher than Richarlison. He has been going up here a little bit. Loftus-Cheek at 4.5. Good place. Actually, that might be something that I'll even look at doing, is dropping Carroll for Loftus-Cheek. Issue there is the injury, which I will be coming up to the injury report here in a little bit. So yeah, some of the teams to really look at bringing in, you could do some Bournemouth players here. They do have a decent set of fixtures. I feel like they've been pretty unlucky this season. Some of their underlying statistics have been more middle of the pack rather than lower table. So if their fortunes really turn for them, they could start to pick up results. And if you have those players here in this end of November fixture area, that would be a good place to pick up some extra points. So anyway, Bournemouth, Brighton, here and there they have decent fixtures. Burnley is one who, if you're looking at defensive points, they're a team that you want to look at. Chelsea is one I would definitely recommend trying to pick up some players for them. Crystal Palace, Liverpool has some good string of fixtures in here. Always Man City. And then Tottenham as well. Tottenham has some decent fixtures. You want to look at bringing in guys like, I would say at this point it's going to be really difficult to figure out how their rotation system's going for their wingbacks. I did already drop Davis because of that reason. You could always go with some of their central midfielders. That would be a much better place to get some points from them. Eriksson, Kane, Dele Alli, definitely recommend any of them. All right, so moving on. I guess that's kind of wrapping up the looking ahead part. Like I said, you can use my fixtures planner to look ahead. Hopefully I'll have some time here. I can go through and edit some of these colors here. I do have it laid out based on the Fantasy Premier League, the official game, how they have it in terms of their difficulty for matchups. So I have it kind of matched up with them. I might go through, make some changes, and do my own difficulty ratings for those. All right, so moving on, let's look at some of the injuries. The best place that I go for injuries is premierinjuries.com. Ben Dinnery does an excellent job here, has a lot of good information. So what I really wanted to look at, it was just kind of break down some of these teams. Starting out with Burnham, Junior Stanislas looks like he's most likely out, so you want to keep an eye on that one. For Arsenal, you have Shkodran Mustafi, who's about 50%. I think he'll probably play because it is the North London derby. Could definitely use him in there. Olivier Giroud is another one who looks like he may or may not play. The only issue there is I don't know how many people are really going to have him anyways. Brighton don't really have anybody major out right now. Burnley, I would say Chris Wood is the biggest one there. May or may not play. I would say more than likely he'll be available. Whether he starts or not is the question. Chelsea, Eden Hazard is listed at 50%. I think that he will probably play this weekend. Same thing with Bakayoko. With David Luiz, I think that's more an issue of whether he really did have a falling out with Conte or if he is injured. So it's a tough one to say whether he will play or not. Just keep an eye on that one. And Batshuayi is out. Crystal Palace, Loftus-Cheek is kind of the biggest one there. I don't know too many people who have Christian Benteke, but it looks like he may or may not be coming back for this week. I guess the most recent detail is that I don't think it'll be a risk playing Christian, so it looks like he should be back. Loftus-Cheek, 50%, may or may not make it. Could be one of those that's on the bench. Everton, nothing really changed there. Seamus Coleman is kind of the biggest one, but no, he's been out for a while anyway. Huddersfield, Christopher Schindler is the big one there, suspended for this week. Leicester doesn't really have anybody unless you did have somebody like Chilwell and Abora. Abora looks like he will be back. Chilwell most likely will be back in as well. Sadio Mane is the biggest one for Liverpool. Picked up a slight injury on international duty, but I think that he will most likely play. Moving along here, Man City. The big one is Otamendi out suspended. Actually, probably the biggest one is Raheem Sterling, lower back injury. Frustrating thing with that is he will most likely not play with Sané playing really well lately. And the rotation policies there, it seems like probably won't take a risk with Sterling if he has any kind of nickel. The biggest one for Manchester United is Phil Jones, ruled out for this weekend. So if you have Phil Jones, make sure you drop him. Newcastle, I think I already touched on. Jamal Lascelles is most likely out for this weekend. Marino is another one that is out. No idea when he'll be back, which is unfortunate because he's somebody who I was thinking about recommending here, but looks like he'll be out for a while. Lemina for Southampton is kind of their biggest one that he's out. They don't have a whole lot of injuries there. Stoke, you have Darren Fletcher that should be returning for this weekend. For Swansea, Boney, Renato Sanchez, Angel Rangel, all available for this weekend. Whether or not they play, probably Rangel will play, but the other two, may or may not play. Tottenham, you have Ali, Lloris, Winks, and Kane are all returning for this weekend. Um, Alderweireld still out, Wanyama still out, and Lamella most likely still out. Watford, Troy Deeney is suspended for that very odd turn of events against Joe Allen in the last week. Aurelio Gomez in goal. I think he'll probably play, most likely. James Morrison, Craig Dawson are two big ones for West Brom. And then West Ham, the biggest one here is Chicharito out for this weekend. That's actually a new one. When I checked earlier, he was, I think, 25%, but now he is ruled out for this weekend. Michael Antonio, that's a tough one. I don't know if he is out simply because he was benched by Bilic for his error against Crystal Palace, or if he really is injured, and who knows what Moyes will do. I guess he's said that he is out, has yet to train for him, so I don't know. Not really sure what's going on there. All right, so let's look at Togga here. For those of you not familiar with Togga, they do draft-style fantasy Premier League. I really enjoy their draft league. The other thing they do have is in their on their app. They do have an app available for Android and for the iPhone, iPad. Definitely recommend downloading that. They have a perfect 11 game. It is a 4-4-2 format, and you can pick any player you want from any team. So you want to stack all Man City players, go ahead and do that. You want to stack a combination of Arsenal and Tottenham players for the North London Derby, you can do that too. It's a lot of fun. They do have different scoring than the official game. There are a lot more points that can be had for midfielders who play more of a defensive role. Think of like, let's see, Nemanja Matic, even Bakayoko for Chelsea does better in their format than he does in the official game. So it is a lot of fun. Definitely recommend checking that out. And I'm hoping to do a daily fantasy preview here later on today, and that'll be a good place for you to get some hints for players you might want to put in for the perfect 11 game. All right, so last bit is my team. Yeah, as you can see, Sterling and Jones are my biggest injury concerns for this week. I have one transfer with 0.8 in the bank. I normally wait until later in the evening to make my decisions. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do for this week. If I want to hold on to Jones, because I do like some of their fixtures coming up here, it's just going to be a matter of when he'll be returning, and whether I do want to try to hold on to him or not. Same thing with Sterling. I've actually considered dropping Sterling for Sané anyway, so this might be a good time to go ahead and do that. I would have just enough to be able to make that transfer. So that is actually the way that I'm leaning. Whether or not I take a -4 to drop Jones or not is kind of the question. I do have enough defensive cover here that if I just make the Sterling move, then I'll be okay. So go here to my team. So let's see. Say I could drop Jones for Morata. This around. I do like this back line. All of them have home fixtures here. I like my midfield. If I drop Sterling, bring in Sané, that'll be some good cover there. I'm thinking that I might even captain Lukaku. He got some extra goals this weekend. Might be a good time to do that. Morata against West Brom, kind of hit or miss there. Even Man City against Leicester away. Very good fixture for them, the way that Leicester plays. Could see them hold on for a draw, but it's just too tough to call that one. But so, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Lukaku as my captain, and most likely will bring in Sané for Sterling. All right, so yeah, that wraps up my Game Week 12 FPL preview. again, definitely check out my YouTube channel for tips every week. I do my Fantasy Premier League tips, and you can go to PremierFPL.com for my Fantasy Premier League fixtures planner as well. Great way to look ahead at matches and see what's coming up. Would really appreciate get you to subscribe to the channel here. That way you get my updates every week for all of my tips. Check me out on Twitter at Premier FPL, and you can also check my own personal one, Todd_Shank. And so yeah, that should wrap it up for Game Week 12. Hoping to do a daily fantasy video here in a little bit as well. Good luck and have fun.